Imagine trying to handle the most basic bathroom needs while wearing an outfit that feels more like a construction project than clothing. You're stuck inside layers of fabric that could easily cover a tent. Your waist is squeezed into a corset so tight that even taking a deep breath feels like a workout. And all around you is polite society people who'd probably pass out if they ever found out how women actually dealt with going to the bathroom. Today we re-diving into one of the weirdest and most fascinating puzzles from history. How Victorian women managed their bathroom needs while dressed like they were part of a fashion museum. And believe me, some of the things they did will seriously blow your mind. Before we get into it, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I love seeing how people from all over the world come together to explore these strange little corners of the past. There's so much more coming your way. Women's chamber pots were oval-shaped to fit under their skirts, and servants were trained to be silent and invisible while handling them. Privacy wasn't just about space. It was about not ruining the illusion. And take care of business with the help of maids who were basically a pit crew in petticoats. All those skirts were seen as modest enough. Crinolines caused problems. Strong wind could lift a skirt up like an umbrella. That led to the invention of split-crotch drawers, which let women use the bathroom without taking anything off. Some even had lids that signaled to servants when they needed to be emptied, all without a word. And if you're into these kinds of stories, hidden history, strange customs, things people never talk about, go ahead and subscribe. For Victorian women, it was a full routine that felt like gearing up for battle. You had to know your dress like the back of your hand. It was part ballet, part mechanics. So women relied on base layers like shifts and split drawers to absorb sweat and odor. Outer dresses were brushed, powdered, and aired out. Before that, people used whatever was nearby: newspapers, leaves, even corn cobs. Wealthier folks used washable cloth. It started with a simple linen shift, just to protect the fancy outer clothes from sweat. Then came the corset, tight enough to reshape the body and sometimes even shift a woman's ribs over time. Think of it as a full contact sport for women. And the only way to win was to be clever, graceful, and a little sneaky. Some upper-class areas even had mobile bathrooms, tiny booth-like carriages you could book in advance, complete with attendants, and the real showstopper, the crinoline. This was basically a steel cage that gave the skirt its huge bell shape, and it could be up to 6 feet wide. Pads were made from cotton, wool, moss, you name it. On heavy days, they might change them up to 20 times, all while acting like nothing was happening. Moving around in one of these was no joke. Hugh had to plan just to sit down without knocking things over. Alright, let's go back to a time when using the bathroom wasn't just private, it was practically a mission. Getting dressed in the morning wasn't just about looking nice. Then came the petticoats, layer after layer, sometimes up to 7 of them. Imagine needing to use the bathroom and all that. Simple things like peeing became an actual strategy game. That's where the chamber pot came in. It wasn't just a bowl, it was specially designed to work with all that fabric. In fancy homes, these pots were hidden inside beautiful furniture, secret compartments and chairs, cabinets with carved panels. Using one of these pots meant carefully shifting layers of fabric without actually lifting anything up. At big events like balls, there were fancy lounges called retiring rooms where women could sneak off. And here's something wild. For much of the 1800s, many women didn't even wear underwear, not like we know it. Toilet paper? That wasn't really a thing until the late 1800s and periods. Women used homemade pads held in place with a T-bandage, kind of like an early belt system. Laundry, also a nightmare. Those huge dresses couldn't be washed often. Most homes did a full wash only twice a year. Public restrooms hardly existed. Women relied on ladies' conveniences hidden in corners of buildings. Believe it or not, some of the bathroom practices of Victorian England were actually inherited from much earlier times. One bizarre holdover was the garderobe, a medieval invention that consisted of a small chamber or vertical shaft built into castles or townhouses. It was a warped version of the French phrase gardes l'eau, meaning watch out for the water. Except it wasn't water, it was a chamber pot being dumped from a second-story window, so you'd better jump out of the way. Waste was simply dropped through a hole into the streets or directly into rivers. Disgusting by today's standards, but back then, completely normal. If you were walking through the narrow alleys of London or Edinburgh in the 18th or early 19th century, might suddenly hear someone yell "Gertie Lou" from a window above. Victorian women had to navigate an entire infrastructure of fashion and etiquette just to manage their basic bodily functions. And when they traveled, things got even more complicated. And it gets stranger. In the 19th century, especially during the Napoleonic and Crimean Wars, governments actually collected human urine. Entire families often used chamber pots in the same room. At social events, gentlemen might casually relieve themselves in the garden. A single outfit could include a corset, chemise, multiple petticoats, bustles, hoops, underskirts, and an overskirt. Every sip of tea had to be carefully calculated, because needing the restroom meant navigating a fabric fortress. A simple bathroom break required not only time and space, but also assistance. For women, it was different. They had to perform a complicated ballet of whispers, glances, and coded signals just to excuse themselves. There were no bathroom breaks. There was only subtle strategy. Even hairdressers and laundresses were part of the machinery that kept the illusion of effortless grace intact. These weren't clunky or obvious, they were designed to be discreet. Often disguised as elegant cases or hat boxes, easily tucked into handbags or trunks. These women didn't get ready in 10 minutes. They underwent a full production, sometimes taking hours just to leave the house. The goal was to avoid embarrassment at all costs. Why? Because when distilled, it produced saltpeter, a key ingredient in gunpowder. That's right. Your bodily waste could literally help win a war. Cleanliness wasn't just about hygiene, it was a form of silent rebellion, a refusal to let bodily functions rob a woman of her dignity. So in a way, going to the bathroom had national importance. Drawing rooms and parlors became spaces for reading, writing, painting, and intellectual conversation. In the quiet confines of the home, women found their voices and began to question the world that silenced them. Some hosted salons, inviting writers, musicians, and philosophers to speak. Now, let's zoom in on the women of that era, the ones burdened not only by social restrictions but by corsets, petticoats, and crinoline cages. The invention of the bicycle in the late 1800s forced real changes in fashion. Corsets were loosened, skirts became narrower and shorter, mobility became essential. By the time World War I arrived, many women had entered the workforce. The infrastructure of modern hygiene, from indoor plumbing to public restrooms, a silent debt to the countless women who endured discomfort in silence and adapted with grace. Victorian women weren't helpless. They were strategic. They were creative. They were patient and dignified in the face of absurdity. They took limitations and turned them into artistry. It's a living testament to what human beings, especially women, can endure and achieve when faced with constraints. They took on roles in factories, offices, and even on the front lines, jobs that simply didn't allow for cage-like clothing or rigid etiquette. And if this blew your mind, wait till you hear what the Tudors used for toothpaste. Entire industries sprang up around solving this issue. Tailors designed dresses with hidden slits or detachable panels. Furniture makers sold elegant chamber pot chairs. Inventors filed patents for portable urinals and folding commodes, designed specifically for women on the go, especially as train travel became more widespread. During travel, women carried collapsible chamber pots made of tin or enamel. Mothers taught daughters how to discreetly adjust their intake of liquids, how to position their garments for relief, and how to send signals to trusted friends or servants when the need arose. Remember the women who came before. It's the ones who wore entire ecosystems on their bodies. It's the ones who managed cramps, corsets, and chamber pots with poise. The ones who whispered, planned, and persevered. Believe it or not, Victorian newspapers held actual debates about the morality of women using these devices. At parties, servants knew exactly how to assist without drawing attention. In a world where talking openly about such things was taboo, women found their own way through silent wisdom and survival rituals. Some moralists claimed that modesty was compromised when women had to relieve themselves outside the home. Others, however, argued that true dignity came from giving women practical and humane solutions. This wasn't just a health issue, it was an ideological battlefield. Privacy, as we understand it today, was nearly non-existent. Their dresses weren't just fashion statements, they were like wearable architecture. Behind every well-dressed woman was a small army. Ladies' maids helped with corsets and dressing. Seamstresses adjusted garments for function, as well as style. In wealthier homes, just managing a woman's wardrobe was a full-time job shared by multiple staff. There was also a quiet, powerful tradition of knowledge passed down between women. This created underground support networks of solidarity. Friends learned to recognize each other's needs without speaking. Interestingly, the bathroom problem actually influenced fashion and innovation. Soap companies, powder makers, and even perfumers profited from the culture of discretion. Because upper-class women spent so much of their time indoors, often, due to the difficulties of going out, they turned that confinement into opportunity. Historians now believe that these intimate, often female-led spaces helped nurture early feminist thought. Over time, practicality began to challenge tradition, and fashion followed suit. Function began to influence design. The elaborate wardrobe of the Victorian lady gave way to simpler, more breathable, and far more practical clothing. It's tempting to laugh at these old customs, or see them as relics of a time long gone. But the truth is, they reveal something deeply admirable. Their ingenuity not only changed fashion, but nudged society toward progress. So next time you flush a toilet without a second thought, or slip into a hoodie for comfort, or take a hot shower on a cold day, pause for a moment. Their legacy isn't just a curious footnote in history. Thanks for taking this journey with me into one of history's most unusual and inspiring stories. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more untold, eye-opening stories from the past. See you in the next video.